I'm sure you folks are probably sick of hearing about this, but you know me, I love talking about weed, especially now that it's legal. Last November, we elected a crazy, big-mouth orange cyst as our leader. And to deal with him, don't be scared. And to deal with that orange cyst, Massachusetts said yes to question 4. Question 4 legalized the recreational use and retail sale of marijuana in the state of Massachusetts, joining the likes of Colorado, Oregon, Washington State, and more places I wouldn't mind living in. So, what is Milford doing about it now? Well, back in April, only 14% of Milfordians voted in an election that had 2 Board of Selectmen seats up for grabs, and it looked like a shop could set up in town. Natural Remedies Incorporated was looking at a vacant spot in the Milford Plaza next to Kohl's. A pot shop next to Papa Gino's? How great would that have been? Not to go over a plan that's already dead, but how great would that have been? Anyways, the plan to open a pot shop there is long gone and dead. Fast forward from then to June 5th. Town Administrator Richard Villani, following up on a request by the board to find a date to hold a marijuana referendum to ask voters if they approve of marijuana shops in Milford or not, announces that after looking at the calendar with the town clerk, they've decided to pick September 19th to hold the vote. September, when the leaves begin to change, and after college kids have left town to move themselves and their bongs out of their parents' basement and back to school. A few months after, only 14% of Milfordians voted in a town election. Everyone asked why. Why the low voter turnout? Why, in what was called a crucial election, did only 3,000 people vote in a town that has close to 28,000 people living in it? After pondering why the town received a low voter turnout, why would they schedule a vote like this in the fall, when people who would surely vote for pot shops in Milford have left town? Why did only 14% of Milfordians oh, T, okay. Why did only 14% of Milfordians vote? The answer is simple. Why would you schedule a vote when you know that April showers will keep people home and May flowers will bring you home young, politically engaged college students ready to vote? But nonetheless, the vote is scheduled for September 19th. Clearly, the ballot question we all voted on last November allows communities to opt out of the retail sale aspect of the bill through a community referendum. But here's the thing. Milford voted yes on the bill in November with only 47% opposing the ballot measure. They didn't say, oh, I'll vote yes for pot while hoping we'll have a referendum because I don't want pot shops in Milford. They voted yes because they know how silly it is that pot is still very much illegal. The Board of Selectmen and the town administrator knew what was up when they scheduled the ballot question asking Milfordians if they think pot shops should be allowed or not in September, especially since no one on the board is in support of retail especially, this is insane, especially since the board is not supportive of retail sales in Milford, and that's the T. Actually, this is the T. So, thank you. See, I wish the T popped up when I said T. This vote could have happened at any point during the summer. It could have been voted on before Labor Day when the weather is still nice and I could maybe, this time around, hold my sign up not in the rain. But they picked September because come September, all the young people who vote yes on it are back to school. They know that once we leave again, Milford will return to only having old people with outdated social ideas and values left in town that will predictably vote no on having pot shops. Also, it is worth knowing to the heavy drinkers here who are opposed to marijuana shops in town that they need to get over themselves. Yes, I'm talking to you, Norm. Don't look at me like that. Norm, Milford has a lot of packy stores up and down Main Street and all over town. It is completely legal for you to walk into a liquor store, buy enough booze to kill yourself with, and then head home to drink yourself to death. It's time to bring out a few stats. Alcohol versus weed. The CDC says that excessive alcohol drinking causes 88,000 deaths per year. Do you know how much weed you have to smoke to kill yourself? It turns out you have to smoke a lot very quickly. You'll need to smoke 1,500 pounds of weed in 15 minutes. So good luck getting all that much weed and smoking all of it in a quarter of an hour. Pot is sadly still seen as an evil gateway drug that will come to your community and turn you into heroin addicts. Unless I'm unaware of the facts, didn't the heroin epidemic stop before anyone voted yes on pot? Isn't Milford already on track to have more overdoses and deaths because of the town's heroin use than it did last year? The vote in favor of legalizing marijuana last spring, but nonetheless opponents have scheduled a special election for September. Who will show up to submit a ballot with just one question on it? its opponents, who are mostly the elderly from the reefer madness generation, who will do anything to keep Milford out of the retail marijuana sale business. The same way that Milford is the only town in Massachusetts to still ban self-service gas stations. Honestly, there's people in town who don't even know how to pump gas themselves. The prohibition against marijuana has failed as much as the prohibition on alcohol 100 years ago. The 18th Amendment to the US Constitution gave us organized crime when bootleggers made criminals of ordinary citizens. Most people understand this. About 7 in 10 voters believe that marijuana should be treated differently than all other currently illegal drugs. Law enforcement should be saving their resources devoted to stopping the actual problems of drugs, not arresting poor Tommy who had a dime bag in his shoe. Leave him alone. We'll be right back.